Nerd on the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
Did you just censor
He did
yourself?
censor himself.
I did. I censored myself on a show that is marked as explicit.
Yeah.
Well,
Let go.
What is, everyone? Welcome to Nerd on the Podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome.
yeah.
When everything feels like a copy of a copy of a copy, you can feel like you're losing yourself.
Whoa.
Today, we cover the thing that we aren't supposed to talk
you.
about and how it touches on how the American
Really, what we
dream
should do is
has
just
been
end the episode.
packaged and branded. Anyway, today, we cover the dark comedy-laden cult classic Fight Club. What do you want?
Robert Paulson.
His name was Robert Paulson. I'm Corey.
And I am Robert Paulson.
There it is.
I'm sorry. I got so excited.
I was just doing the one thing we do at the opening of the show.
I know.
I just spent the last 10 minutes writing it.
I know.
I was so excited. I shushed him. Anyway.
I'm sorry, everybody. I just made this more of a train wreck than it needed to be.
And you deserve it.
And you deserve it. You
Oh,
deserve
boy.
this good content.
Yeah.
Anyway, I am Josh.
Yeah.
For reals.
It's a
And
good show.
This episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon. As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks. Like you get early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears. You get access to channels on our Discord server that nobody else gets access to. And you have direct access to us, hosts. So check it out, nerdon.tv/Discord to join the Discord. And check out that Patreon, nerdon.tv/Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
You do help us to grow. You help us to upgrade our content and to keep doing this as much as we love doing this. So do check it out. Also, a huge shout out to our partners in crime, Apogee and Odyssey and Embody Audio.
Embody, yada, 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 yada.
There it is. Wow.
Gets him
Apogee,
every time.
Apogee helped us through the pandemic by equipping us with the Hype mic, which honestly, it's a great microphone. Check it out. Use it on PC, Mac, even iOS devices, which is crazy and wonderful. So check it out.
It's awesome.
And Odyssey headphones, we are using their LCD ones. If your ears were mouths, they taste like butter.
This is the true.
This is the true. And Embody. And Embody Audio. They
Embody,
make
yada, yada, yada.
they make Immerse Gaming Hive, which is a spatial audio program that creates a surround sound environment in any kind of over-ear headphones. So do check it out. And if you like what you hear today, stop by, rate and review us, share it with your friends and family. And I do want to shout out a recent review that we got. Because that's what we do here. And Caitlin's not here, so I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Recent review comes from RDTRND0 on Apple Podcasts. Says, I listen all the time.
Hell yeah.
Shout out, homie.
Shout
You're
out.
doing it. You're doing
And-
Lord's work.
Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. But yeah, drop in, rate and review. Some things like that will happen. But that is housekeeping. Let us get on with Project Mayhem.
Ooh, well done.
My dumb idea while I was
yeah.
fucking like I was gonna say witty comment. We just end the episode and we just don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah, that was good, but I had that
Not
joke
during the
in there.
intro, Josh. Not during the intro, Josh.
That brings it to our first segment of the show, which is Guess
That
Grump. Try a grump and spin it. Yeah, where is my mind? Who is the grump? Where is my mind? That's
This
it.
is my life.
So anyway, that's if this is your first time listening,
You're
We're
welcome.
sorry about
apologize.
the ear bleeds.
And you're welcome.
And you're also welcome for these things.
Because you never heard that before today.
Yeah.
Promise.
I
Promise.
guarantee it.
What other show can guarantee you that you listen
a
to something that
special
you've
slice
never
of hell.
heard before?
Yeah.
You know, you never get that.
No, it's beautiful.
So Tom,
Oh, I was going to keep going, but yeah, Tom, take it away.
So this part of the show is where we're going
Trying
to
to
go
be
around.
better to support Tom.
Yeah. This is part of the show where we're going to go around the table and guess who's going to have the lowest score from 1 out of 5. No matter how high the number is, the lowest one will be the grump for the week. Now, since I always explain, Corey sometimes improvises, and Josh forces me to do this part, I will go first. And
It's
I will
true.
think that Josh will be the grump for this episode
Okay.
because he did not suggest this episode.
I
And
did not.
when you have two other people to guess, it's either the right answer or the wrong answer.
And the ultimatum of 3 hosts.
Yep. So, Josh, should I put you down for Tom?
Yeah.
and
you
but-
suggested it.
I did
and
suggest this episode.
I'm like,
And so, also something kind of new to the show, if you are familiar, we are writing down our questions or our numbers before we get to the next part because we don't want our numbers to get swayed.
That's true.
Corey,
Yeah.
could you please explain to us what that may be?
Well, I'm gonna guess first.
No.
Okay. And I'm gonna go with. It's harder for me right now,
because
Josh.
it's like who's your friend and who's your enemy.
Josh.
that's how it works.
Yes.
That's not how that works.
Either you think like me or you're against me.
But hey, are you sitting at home going like, look, I know Corey suggested this, but he
hates
just is there to tear it down. He's there. He doesn't like David Fincher or nothing good ever. So if you want to take part in the polls
He
and have
doesn't
your
like
voice be heard, then you can join the Nerd On Nation. And if you get it right, you could be that Gatorade, grass-fed, Paper Street, Robert Paulson, Marla Singer, Gatorade, grass-fed, Patrick
Consumer.
Graham, consumer. Great. Is that Great or Gumper?
Gingham IKEA.
There we go. Yeah. And what that means is that you get to vote, and if you get it right, you get a shout out on the show. Hey, that's cool.
Glycerin.
Glycerin, nitroglycerin. That's a good one.
Anyways.
So there it is. Yeah, and the nation has spoken. Tom, you pointing to yourself?
Yeah.
Because it's you.
Okay.
It is you.
Look,
It's
Tom. It's Josh.
totally you.
Yeah, it was you by like a long shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
so-
did think that there was going to be like, hey, Tom, it's Josh.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
You do
Keep
I
us
do
on-
that
keep
quite
us
a
on our
bit.
toes.
But now that segment is done, bring us to our complete spoilers of this, which
Spoilers.
is our first reactions and initial reactions and first impressions.
Yeah.
Almost 4 years in.
Well, this is new for me. I'm taking the lead here, and Tom is watching it, going, "He's growing."
Playing with us, Peter.
Nature's healing.
So, Tom, why don't you start us off?
So my initial reaction, actually, I can't remember the first time I watched this movie. I honestly can't. I know I've watched it, and I only have the most memorable moment watching it as a DVD. And I think that's where most people watch it because it's a cult classic.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it when I was in college, and I remember always seeing the iconic poster of Edward Norton in the background,
Bar soap.
Brad Pitt in the foreground. Yeah, in the foreground carrying the bar soap. And I'm just like, it's a Fight Club. It's
It's
thing.
about soap.
And I was like, and there's a really oily, greasy Brad Pitt movie.
Mhm.
And that was it. And I was like, oh, there's the Tim Burton wife, but not anymore. Her name is Helena Bonham Carter.
Yes.
So I was like, I don't know who she is outside of crazy Tim Burton world. And then I was like, okay. Oh, it's the guy who did Panic Room. Whatever. And that was it. That was all I knew about this movie while I watched it. And I was like, oh. And so without spoilers at this first part, because it's
Yeah,
non-spoiler.
spoiler free.
I will say it like this: with hindsight, they really don't make movies like this anymore, and that's honestly like my impression of it. It's like, wow, like there's a lot of different opinions about it on the internet because I like to say the audience has become sophisticated, but a lot of critics have not.
Mm.
There's a lot of bad, dumb takes because I have had the lovely privilege of listening to Chuck Palahniuk talk about his writing. And once you start understanding where the artist kind of comes from, again, to me, I will stand on the precipice of like, it is not the artist's responsibility to tell you what is right and wrong. It's them to
Yes.
tell you what a story is and where your mind can go and the human experience can be, and to expand your horizons on that way. But you know, your parents or whoever took care of you should have been told you like, don't hurt people.
Yeah.
You know, this, you know, what is bad mindset mentality, what is bad faith actors. And watching this film, it's still, even to this day, it's just like, there's a lot of things in here that I normally don't like. And this just does it in a way because you just know you're in the hands of these storytellers. And it is such a kind of wonderful play in a way where, like, it's kind of a time capsule of films at that time that were really against the grain of what is allowed to be done. And I could promise you that if any film now are being told that way, it wouldn't work out. If not, it would just be like shitted upon because people can't tell the difference between tropes and conventions.
Yep.
And I think this film actually is like really, really just one of the master classes of like subversion, and it gives you a lot of the like breadcrumbs along the way, and it kind of it demands you to rewatch it after you've watched it for the first time. So,
and it's very rewarding for
yes,
that. Yeah.
I very much enjoy watching this film recently on Amazon Prime Direct Video, and I can't recommend watching it more. Actually.
Cool.
I think everyone who says that they're a film buff should go watch this movie.
Josh?
Yeah. I too cannot remember the first time that I saw this. I know that I saw it
the first time. Okay.
It was.
Hey.
Yes, and no. I don't remember the first time watching it. It's the thing about this movie is always in my top 10. When I worked at Hollywood Video, it was always on my staff picks. When I worked at Hollywood Video, we had a fake employee named Robert Paulson. Anytime I go into a big project, I call it, okay, we're in Project Mayhem.
Yep.
Here we go. This movie, it is one that I can just watch and watch and watch so many times. It's not watching it to get prepped for this episode. It was like comparing it to something like Sixth Sense that has a twist at the end.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, now you're watching for the clues.
Yeah.
And this one, you keep watching and you pick up something new. You pick up a new concept. It's not ruined.
Sure.
Like there's so many wonderful moments.
If anything, the dramatic irony is heightened.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love this movie. It's like
Ooh.
I chose.
It's one that it's not. If you know me in life,
yeah,
personally, you wouldn't expect that something like this might be
right, which is where
totally
the votes
my
came
wheelhouse.
from. Yeah.
But you would be wrong. No, because it is to me a cinematic masterpiece, especially for its time when it came out too.
Yeah,
like,
about to cry.
I was gonna cry
out of his pee-pee.
That's been happening since we started the episode.
Yeah, okay. He wore the yellow pants.
Yeah,
and the white ones.
Yeah, I'll stop there because I don't want to get into spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler free.
So,
for me, again, I don't remember the exact moment, same as you guys, but it was in high school. And what?
There's key lines in there that I would not want a high schooler to hear.
Yeah, but I watched a lot of movies that were not supposed to. My dad was like very like, let's watch cinema, let's talk about it, that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Watched Fight Club in high school, the request of a couple friends, and I remember watching this and being like, this is really funny. This is just a super dark comedy and a satire on a lot of things. And I remember talking to them at school the next day, and they just got a different movie than I did. Like, they just understood it as a super macho, bro-y movie. And I was like, but that's the thing.
Which a lot of people actually, I came to find out.
A lot of people, yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, but that's the opposite of what this is. And it became kind of like I think it might have been my first exposure to Edward Norton as an actor, who became one of my favorites over time. And when I first moved to New York, I had a really terrible time there. And I just kind of had this on repeat a lot, just in the background while I was cooking or whatever, doing other stuff, doing other work, because it kind of spoke, without getting again into too many spoilers, it kind of spoke to that broken promise about what you can achieve. and I kind of it resonated with me in that sense and where I was in
Because
life.
you moved to New York for a certain purpose, right?
Yes, yeah. Or maybe I told myself I did. I'm still figuring that out. But yes, I did.
Sorry.
So with that, it became okay. Well, now I'm gonna watch it with the director commentary. Okay, now I'm gonna watch it with the actor commentary. Okay, now I'm gonna watch scene by scene. Now I'm gonna watch the breakdowns for this. Just became like it was like my first deep dive where I found out like trivia and stuff like that and fell in love with it because of the behind the scenes stuff, even more so than the movie.
And I mean, I have to say, it is a testament to cult classics, which is
Yeah.
Fincher's foray.
Yeah.
Where cult classics are just highly misunderstood against the broad audience.
Yeah.
And I think what you found and discovered was that like there was so much more than just the surface.
Yeah.
And I think that's why there's so much commentary and there's so much more discourse around it even today.
Yeah. And the last thing that sold me on this movie which I didn't understand until later in life it's really a director thing, is the attention to detail in this film is beyond. I mean, there's a lot of movies like this that don't have quite as many little things in it. So
if I can say one bit of it, and this is going to date the episode a little bit. There's been a recent discourse that I absolutely want to, how do I say it in very nice for the air? Shove a hammer straight through my skull.
Okay.
Wow.
I could say like more plain, simple words, but I don't want
to.
I don't want
to you away from Tom here.
I need an adult.
Well, people somehow on the internet got to the point where they were saying like, oh yeah, Marvel movies are like indie movies with big budgets.
Woof.
Then I'm like, no,
Oh.
Fincher movies are like indie movies with big budgets.
Yes.
Because the thing about, and I hate to give a apples and oranges kind of thing, but David Fincher comes from ILM. He came from like a special effects background, and Corey knows much more about Fincher than I do, but the fact that those people have to look at frame by frame by frame by frame for every movie.
Yeah.
This is someone that has done that within their own film language, telling the story. And so when you have a movie like Fight Club and all the other works he's done, like there are things in there that you are not catching, that no one's talked about, that he has had to probably had arguments with himself or the screenwriter of why he has to do it that way.
Yep.
And that's something that I guarantee you that these big tentpole films, whether they're Marvel or they're DC or they're legendary films, they don't do.
Mhm.
Their intentionality is not the same.
No.
And there's a reason why the cult classic films exist and why the blockbuster movies exist.
Yep.
Because society is not looking at the same things.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
I was just thinking about because I work in trailers and promos, and oftentimes a frame or a few frames is the difference
Yeah.
that it can make on some things. And when you think about it and you break it down, that's less than a second. Some people barely notice.
Mm-hmm.
But you do.
But you do.
You do.
You learn to notice.
You would notice if it was still there or not.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's the first couple segments of our show. And now we move into spoiler country, right?
We move into our next two, which are brief synopsis.
Which is spoiler-ish.
brief synopsis and our production.
I was doing so well.
You were.
I was doing great.
Good for you, dude.
You got to you miss 100% of the shots you don't
Yeah,
take.
you're dismissed.
It's been fun.
You're never going to be allowed back into this house. So the brief synopsis will be given to you by me. So I'll get started. A depressed man, played by Edward Norton, suffering from insomnia, meets a strange soap salesman named Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt, and soon finds himself living in his squalid house after his perfect apartment is destroyed. The two bored men form an underground club with strict rules and fight other men who are fed up with their mundane lives.
Mm-hmm.
Their perfect partnership phrase when Marla, Helena Bonham Carter, a fellow support group crasher, attracts Tyler's attention.
Nice.
Next part.
Can I read how Brad Pitt and Edward Norton brief synopsize?
Sure.
A story about two friends who start an amateur boxing club for disadvantaged young men and the woman who comes between them.
So it's a romance.
That's
Yeah.
how they brief synopsize.
Okay. Nice. Mine was via Google.
Yeah, no. So I just found that and I was like, oh, that's funny.
That's cute.
Production.
Comes from me. It was distributed by 20th Century Fox, which also did Alien, Avatar, many things. Director David Fincher, also known for The Social Network, Seven,
Mm-hmm.
and Mank. Producers Art Linson, Into the Wild, The Untouchables, What Just Happened. Sian Chaffin, Social Network, Gone Girl, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Ross Grayson Bell, also known for Under Suspicion, Crackdown, Ice Pawn. Writers, Jim Ewells, known for Jumper, Sweet Talk, Semper Fi, based on Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. Cast, Brad Pitt, Seven, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Ad Astra, Edward Norton, Rounders, American History X, The Incredible Hulk.
Rounders.
Helena Bonham Carter, known for Alice in Wonderland, Big Fish, the Harry Potter franchise. Meatloaf, I would do. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, Wayne's World, Monk, and Jared Leto, Dallas Buyers Club, Zack Snyder's Justice League, American Psycho.
Watch that.
I knew that was going to be in there.
I have to.
Yeah.
I had to. The release date, October 15th, 1999. That was a really good year in cinema.
Yes, it was.
Runtime, 139 minutes. Budget, $63 million, with a gross of $101.2
Bless you.
So surprising I sneezed.
million. Rotten Tomatoes score, 79% of critics from 178 users. 96% audience from 250,000
That's
plus
quite the difference between the critics and users.
What did I say?
I know.
What did I say earlier?
Quite the difference.
I'm just saying. And I would have to imagine that box office or that gross number is definitely because of the DVD sales.
Yeah.
Because that's,
It flopped.
Yeah. Another
theaters.
thing that's indicative of what quote unquote qualifies as a cult classic is if it does really well in the home purchases. So yeah, that's how that works. So now we can go into our complete spoilers of everything, which are going to be our favorite parts, favorite characters, our qualms, and finally our rating. I'm going to go first.
Okay.
Favorite part. I don't know. I like a lot of it.
I was like,
Next
I'll go
segment.
first. I don't know.
I like a lot of it. No, I really enjoyed just to me, Alice in Wonderland
Mm-hmm.
is the odyssey of a man from the mundane world who spirals and spirals and spirals and meets these colorful characters and spirals
Yeah.
and finally comes out on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think there's a lot of once you understand the artists, then you really start appreciating their work. And it's why I think I always, as a younger man, never appreciated art museums.
Oh.
Because I don't know these
Okay.
artists and I don't know what they're going after. And I never ever bothered reading the little card next to their art.
Right.
But then listening to Chuck talk about why he writes, what he writes, how he writes it, and just the idea and how it spirals into something big where it's just like, I wonder what would be a group of dudes fighting for, and then how that kind of gets reverse engineered of like, and I don't know if this is right or not, but I could see some intentionality of like, well, it's probably a bunch of dudes who need help, a bunch of dudes who want something more out of their fellow person. What if we took one of those people and it's like, and they just lived a regular mundane life, and then they started, and so you go backwards. So it's like, okay, cool. Now we have who Edward Norton's character is, and it's like they sought support groups and then realized that was just filling this empty void because they're using it for duplicitous reasons, and then they end up creating this bond. And I was just like, wow. And now we're here.
Yeah. Well, because the book,
Now we're here.
Chuck Palahniuk actually wrote the book because he went. I think he I can't remember if he went on vacation or he was off a few days, and he got jumped and like got the shit kicked out of him, and he had these bruises and cuts all over him. And he went to work the next day. It was a vacation, and he came into work, and no one would address all the bruises and cuts and everything. They were just like, "How was your vacation? Was it good?" And he was like, "What the?" So no one wants to break the social contract for some reason. Like you don't want to ask me about anything that happened here.
Nothing's out of.
And so that's what spawned the start of that book, is that there's this weird like, we just don't, if we think it's too much for us to deal with, we'll ignore it. And this is about them like, I'm gonna face it.
I feel like that plays into the lobster bisque. Of like, if you tasted like your soup tastes like piss, but you're in a fancy place with a bunch of your friends, you wouldn't be saying like, this lobster bisque tastes like piss. You would just say, tastes so good.
Wow, fancy. It must be because it's fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just a Chuck thing.
Yeah.
It was. I was watching a video where Chuck was explaining, same vein, what you were talking about, of like why he does and how he does what he does. When a woman explained a really tragic story.
Bird?
I apologize. I don't remember the exact video, but she was explaining this tragic video or this tragic story in her life, because he was telling a story that wasn't his own story, but it was a dark, funny story, and she had something that actually happened to her, and she was like, you telling that story helps me tell my story, and it relieves some of the stigma, but it also provides humor.
Sure.
It allows me to see the humor in the situation.
Well, allows you to live it out, like instead of like always repressing it.
Yeah.
And
the repression was like kind of the big.
And his mentality, to your point, is like a good story is not one that mic drops where everyone's like, wow. A good story is the one that where someone says, oh, I had a very similar experience.
Yeah.
And then you continue the conversation. And so he would tweak it to get darker and darker
Yeah.
and darker and darker.
And it's just like, it's the story itself has transformed from that moment into this like feeling like he was part of this lost generation. And this is kind of what the whole point of this story is about, is this like, Gen X or like the lost generation, is this like generation that was promised this American dream. They saw their parents in the 50s and 60s do buy a house, be successful and stuff, but realizing that like, oh, we don't actually have any of those things. This American dream that we were promised was pre-packaged and sold to us as an idea by the people who are already successful to keep us doing what we're doing. And there's a moment, because Edward Norton and Brad Pitt had a lot of input on the movie. They would hang with Fincher and play Nerf basketball, and they would like the whole scene in the diner after his apartment blows up and they're hanging out was all improvised by the two of them. But there's the moment in the movie that they wanted to put in because it was like, this is the reason we are writing this movie, is the new VW bug. That was Edward Norton and Brad Pitt's idea, because they both hated it because they thought it was the same thing of like, okay, so these people in the 60s saw this as their idea of peace and love and youth, are now all in their 60s pre-packaging their youth to us to sell an idea of what happiness is, but it's not the same thing. And I just thought that was really interesting. Yeah. So that's why they hit it with the bats.
I mean, just going to specific parts of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I really just enjoy the decline. Edward Norton just being like, I'm going to be on this flight. Everything when you have insomnia, nothing's really alive and around. But then like he goes home and before that scene, you see him categorized like, oh, if I see this table and it has a yin yang, I have to get it.
Yeah.
And then you come back, and then I really just love it. You don't see the actual explosion. You don't have to see it, but then you see the detritus all over the ground. And you see the table on the ground.
You see the table and the condiments, and
then while they're explaining certain things happening, then you like I think he's having a conversation with Tyler, and then you see it like this happened, and then you see like the gas going off, and then
so it's actually as he's calling Marla, and as soon as she says hello. The explosion happens. And Fincher was talking about, he's like, I just wanted her voice to be the catalyst for everything in this.
Yeah.
And then he calls Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gets a call back. And if you look closely on the payphone, it says incoming calls not allowed. So it shouldn't happen. Yeah. It's not supposed to work that calls can come into that phone.
Yeah. Josh?
There is a lot.
Yeah. There's a ton to unpack.
I think one of my favorite ones, it's more so 3/4 of the way, and they hold up, I say, this shopkeeper in this like grocery store.
Oh yeah.
And they have a gun to his head to force him to go back to school.
Yeah.
I just have always loved that in this idea of like you are on this path that you feel forced into and you're not following your dreams. And just like being in that moment, being forced to, because you're scared. Because if you don't, you will die.
It's a terrifying scene at the same time, And then he has that whole waxing like, tomorrow's breakfast will taste better than ever before, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. And the other scene, oh man. So when Lou comes in, when he finds the Fight Club,
fucking Lou,
fucking Carl Cefalio.
Is that who that is?
It's the guy with the gun. His bodyguard. Carl Cefalio is also on Carcerum, who also played the Thing in the 1991 Fantastic Four.
Right.
Oh, funny. I'm just not getting it. And his laugh, I just love Brad Pitt's crazy laugh.
In that scene, they're like,
yeah. And
very
just
Heath Ledger Jokery.
Yeah.
and the just everybody coming around him at the end.
The part that got me in that scene is when he's like, "Okay, I got it. Shit, I lost it."
Yeah. Just the balls on this guy.
Yeah.
I just love it.
But
Yeah.
also just seeing Lou, giant fisted man, just
He's
pummeling
kinda-
this dude.
And he's kind of achieving the goals of that release as well.
Yeah.
Lou is like, he just got pulled into Fight Club without knowing.
Yeah. 100%.
Like,
100%,
you're now
yeah.
a member, my friend.
Corey? Yeah.
I mean, to start with a little one is just the losing the fight sequence. Losing a fight, go lose a fight. Right after that, he goes, "I want you to go lose a fight." And you have like Holt McCallany, spraying the priest down by the car wash and stuff like that, or Bob chasing people on bikes as they go by, and then you finally get to the thing that always makes me laugh. You see, you're gonna lose a fight, and then Edward Norton shows up at his boss's office, and you're like, "Oh shit!"
Oh, the boss blackmail.
He's gonna lose a fight, and then there's a little breadcrumb in that scene, obviously too. But that whole sequence and the self fight, and then walking out whistling, the blood all over, just whistling with computers and like.
I mean, I will say that scene or that whole montage kind of goes and gets married with this narration that happens, and me and my Robert McKee. If you do narration, you're a piece of shit.
Mhm.
But in this film, I really enjoy it because there's that line that's happening during that moment where with the priest and all that stuff. It's like you realize that people will do mostly almost anything to avoid a fight.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy films that try to have these kind of surgical observations of human existence or human nature. But knowing what this film is, and there is this, I think to me, it's a trap. It's a trap that to me, pseudo intellectuals will fall into of being like, this is cult propaganda. This is alt-right incel cult propaganda shit. Where it's just like, yeah, and is it glorifying it or are you glorifying it?
Yep.
And so that's the part where it's like it's showing you it, but also you don't see a bunch of people saying like, I love the ultra violence from Clockwork Orange.
Right.
They're showing like, oh God,
Yeah.
what are we doing? This is terrible. So they have those moments because it's Tyler Durden and as well as Edward Norton learning these things of what Tyler Durden is influencing him, of like how these machismo men, again, who probably need more support group help than they're actually leading on, and how they operate and how they think and why they think they're quote unquote taking control of their community, their world, their society. And it's like you get this double messaging of like, this is what a cult leader would say. They would say very logical, smart things, but you know that there's a hint of nihilism in there, and that there is no humanity in those statements. Of course, we want to be logical and numbers of ones and zeros, but humans are not logical by any means.
I was listening to this is a good point you touched on nihilism and stuff like that, because I was listening to the director. There's a commentary with Fincher, Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, and Helena, and they were talking about how part of their version of this movie was kind of like we wanted to tongue-in-cheek the nihilism and kind of show that like it's kind of cool and edgy to be nihilistic, but it really in the end there are aspects of it you can take, but to fully give in to this like kind of stoicism in a way, it's just kind of like, oh man, like
it's kind of bullshit.
When you grow up a little more, you'll understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's why I always said like the whole there's like a weird prism of method actors, and in particular with Jared Leto and playing the Joker, everyone's like he was method. I was like he wasn't. He was in the role. He was in the character, but he wasn't shooting everyone, was he?
Right.
That's not truly your method then.
Yeah.
Right. So there's like you can say the smart, lucid, cool thing, but if you battery test and apply it to the world, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
There's always an exception, and whenever there's an exception, the rule doesn't work. Like that's all you need.
Yeah.
Another favorite scene of mine is the car scene, where they're arguing and they're in the rain. He's like, "Let go." That whole scene I think it's just really well done for a couple reasons. One, you have really brilliant dialogue between Tyler and Jack, or the narrator, or whatever you want to call him. But the interjections of the two guys in the back seat talking to him, and like this is where you start getting little heavy-handed hints, where the guy gets out of the car and he goes, "For you, Mr. Durden," and he's like, "After you," and even though he's looking at Edward, but the little bits of them being like, we do not talk about Project Mayhem, shut up, and just thinking from their point of view of him in the front kind of yelling at himself and just letting go of the wheel. Everyone buckles up and the car flips, and the little thing that seals the deal in this scene for me is that Tyler pulls Edward Norton out of the driver's side of the car, not the passenger side of the car where he was sitting. I just love those little breadcrumbs, man. I'm like a sucker for that shit.
I like that scene because I've had those not specifically that topic, but I've had that kind of conversation with myself when you know like what's going on in the movie. But it's just like talking to myself because sometimes I get so anxiety ridden that I like have to have a
let go,
like a third, like another part of me that's like, Josh, let go, like just like
chill,
dude, chill the out.
Did you just censor
he did
yourself?
Censor himself.
I did. I censored myself on a show that is marked as explicit.
Yeah.
Well,
let go, Josh.
Let go, Josh. Let it go.
That's funny.
I will say I do really enjoy that there was, a small, stupid rivalry between Jared Leto and the narrator.
The jealousy.
The jealousy of getting Tyler's affection and just being to a bloody pulp. I will also say this, again, dude brain. It's not something that, again, I'm being prideful of. Like, Helena Bonham Carter was kind of a babe.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's like, so like, ooh, you're like the kind of bad that I love.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you're a bad influence.
This is what you're talking about watching it second time around. Like, think of the whole thing from her point of view.
Yeah, no, when the next morning,
I think you should go.
You should go. And she says, fuck you. And I'm like, wow.
For this, like, going back to what I was saying in my initial reaction of like, so you can watch this movie from a standpoint of just experiencing it first time.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can watch it so you can find the clues of the twist. Then you can watch it so you can notice like, oh shit, her point of view.
Yeah.
Then you can watch it to get everybody else's point of view.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what I love about this movie. So you can find all the like little.
I mean,
yeah.
A big deal that I really saw, and Corey could probably talk more about this, was like, I remember watching the film. So I knew the whole twist and all that stuff, but rewatching it again, I was so much more dramatically aware of the subliminal Tyler Durdens.
Oh, there's like 3, I think.
Yeah, and they're all at like, I don't know if you remember like the particular moments or why they're there, but like one when one's Marla's walking away, and it's like there's a clip of him. So
then the other one's the doctor, like spliced into there, and then the other one is when he's a copy of a copy, pink of a copy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason for where they're at necessarily, as much as Fincher just liked introducing the character before you ever really meet him in the way that
they look familiar.
Tyler would do
Well,
it.
if you think of it from a psychological standpoint, it's like, it's not like he just went crazy overnight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It happened over time, and the aspect of Tyler Durden in his subconscious and his brain was already starting to cook.
Yep.
It's already starting to get in there. There's parts of his the thing about this movie that always makes me think is it's like there is a part of there's a Tyler Durden in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my brain, like Tyler Durden is like, as you can tell already, I censor myself a lot.
What the F?
I hold back a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes like being in conversations with these guys, they'll tell you that I'm pretty, when I speak and I'm going to say something that could potentially be not mean, but just like to the point.
To
like
your perspective.
I will.
Blunt.
Yeah, blunt. I have a lot of reservations.
Sure.
Whereas Tyler Durden for me like is like this example of just like, say the fucking thing, man.
Yeah.
Just say it. I think, doesn't he at one point say, just say it?
Yeah.
Just say the thing.
Yeah.
I love just going back to favorite parts. I love the bathtub scene where they're kind of like talking about
he's
their
washing
dads.
himself.
He's cutting his nails. And
Who'd you want to
franchising.
fight? Who'd you want to fight?
Yeah. I love those conversations of just like just really easy, just like, okay, who's this or this?
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Scrappy guys fight till the end.
Gandhi.
Good answer.
Good answer.
But the bathtub scene is really great. Yeah, talking about their dads and how they were like
You're getting little hints there.
a generation raised by mothers. Is that what I think that's the line or something like that. And it talks about his dad franchising. He's like, start new families every few years. Just go off. Because that's a nice little moment. Apparently, I think that was reshot. I think they were in a different spot, and they were like, they should just be in the bathroom hanging out.
Well, I mean, that brings to that point. I love the house.
Yeah.
Like, I would hate that house, but I just really enjoyed like them
The
like
idea.
exploring it. Like, when it rains, turn off the electricity. Like
Establishing the world.
it's like I don't know who this house is. There's no lock to the front door. Like
Paper Street.
all this stuff. It's just like I loved all that stuff and like seeing it. I was like, it's such a rich like art direction in that way, and where it's like, yeah, it's a crickety house and it's a former shell of what it used to be. And of course, this place like and
Leaks everywhere.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's interesting because it also kind of touched upon this level of like you do what you can to survive, but really people are not like represented by what they have, and it's like you're not your job, you're not the car you have, you're not the clothes you own.
Khakis.
Yeah, and it's all that stuff, and almost like there's so much of the visual storytelling being that's reinforcing the dialogue that's happening. So you, as an audience member, are starting to kind of get seduced by Tyler Durden, and I think that was just like again you're kind of lulled into that, which I think is why again a lot of people, bloggers and critics, are so profoundly misled by this film.
Yeah.
and they just think that this film is one thing when it's not.
They also think it's being serious when it's a
comedy.
satire. It's a
when
very
you
dark
look at
comedy.
when you look at the genre, it doesn't say nonfiction biopic. It says dark comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there's little thing like, okay, so Paper Street. Do you know what a paper street is? In zoning, when they're mapping out cities, if they have a street that isn't built yet or isn't named, they'll call it a paper street as a placeholder. So it's kind of another hint that
it just exists on paper.
It's not there. Yeah. But another thing I loved is the ending. In the book, he dies and he meets God in the end of the book. Chuck Palahniuk has gone on record saying that this movie did a better version of his book. Getting to save Jack after learning his lesson instead of taking them both down, having Marla have a happy ending. Because in the book, the reason he wants to blow up the credit card companies is to reset debt because she can't afford
treatments.
Yeah. So I do miss that in there a little bit, but like the way it ends, I think is a lot better.
Well,
that whole scene is just
it's
the way it plays out.
And again, you could look at hindsight 2020 now, right? Like it's like the change of Thanos of like I wanted to use the gauntlet to make the universe better by being evil, versus like the original is like I like Lady Death and she won't give me none.
Yeah.
And so it changes the emotional journey to
It's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, thinking back, I was like, yeah,
to a calloused, almost nihilistic way of like, this is how I solve everyone's problems by doing this martyr-esque thing. So again, like it creates that duality where audience members should kind of get Rorschached. But again, it's not the artist's intention to be like, or a responsibility to be like, hey, this is actually the bad thing, but it lets people actually have the conversation, which I think David Fincher serves the writing in that way where it's like, yeah. And again, Jim Uhls, who wrote the film, was like, they're honoring the screenplay and it's adapting it. If you want to see where it's come from, read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean,
a little callback in that scene too, when he's like, still can't think of anything. Oh, callback, very funny.
I do. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to enjoy. The balls are cold.
Oh my god,
around
so
it.
good.
I love the
Meatloaf being like, first rule is not supposed to talk about it.
I do love the initiation, the guys standing out there, and then Meatloaf getting sent away, and then the narrator bring him back in because it's like, oh, it's an emotional thing. But when he dies, it's super sad.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy like seeing Jared Leto's broken face, being like, sir.
Yeah, and like not getting a little bit of the satire here is not understanding like he had a name. It was Robert Paulson. He goes, in life,
in death, you have a name.
Yeah, and his name is Robert Paulson. You're like, no, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And it's like,
stop.
But like, yeah, that's a cool thing of like the uncontrolled, cult mentality. But also, enjoy like the montage of him having to track down Tyler and then the inner monologue of like, oh, I just know he's like, I just missed him. I just missed him. And then the guy with the neck brace being like, is this a trick? Is this a test, sir? He's like, no, it's not a test.
Yeah.
And he's just trying
the
to get
bartender
the answers.
winking at him and stuff. Like,
yeah,
no,
and
sir.
then like he goes into the waiters and they're like, his name was Robert Paulson. It's like,
what
oh my
the
God.
fuck is happening?
But then like again, all the small secret society shit where he like goes to talk to Marla in the diner's like
cops.
Yeah, and he's like, clam chowder. I recommend not having the clam chowder. It's like no clam chowder.
Or does he say clean food? Do you have something hot?
Yeah,
clean food, please.
Yeah.
Then I would recommend the miss does not get the clam chowder.
Yeah, and everything's all free.
Yeah.
When she says, "You have this many seconds," his speech to her is that many seconds.
The bell rings at
yeah.
that moment.
2 scenes that are just horrible, but amazing. So the lipo scene when they're getting
The fat where they
the
get
fat
the fat
over the
and
fence.
it spills.
It just you viscerally feel it. And the chemical burn.
Chemical burn was
Like,
a really
it
good
just-
scene.
For me, I mean, it shows the power of your mind of just like
And how Tyler didn't have a scar. And
yeah,
has a
it's
scar.
just it's
But I also just when you start analyzing and to me, I try to engage with these dumb pseudo intellectual takes, and I'd be
Mhm.
like, okay, is this really cult recruitment stuff? I'm like, yes, you see that happening in the film and how dangerous that is. Like,
Yeah.
these are the tools of how to do it, but also there's tools of like, this is the movie about Jeffrey Dahmer. And it's
Yeah,
like,
right.
We're not showing you to be accountable, but this is how it happened.
Right.
So like, but that whole chemical burn thing, I was like, yeah, this is like the heart check, the full on recruitment of a person going into a cult.
well, it's the reprogramming
Mhm.
in that and it's because
It's a hard reset right there.
yeah, because you have a stressful environment, not just mentally, but physically. He is being forced to accept the message.
Yeah, and I think there's
or
that.
he will, because his salvation is being held if he doesn't get this idea.
Mhm. I think there's like that fine line that the film tries to start talking about of like everything Tyler says is technically would push you in a positive direction, but if you're just misled into a wrong
Mhm.
belief system, it takes you down just a wrong one. And I think there's a lot of good or bad mindsets that are very similar sounding to good ones.
Yeah.
I think I have to make a shout out to I haven't been fucked this well since I was in
Since grade school.
which the
They
line was
changed.
changed because
Yeah.
the original one was supposed to be
I want to have your abortion.
I'm gonna have your abortion. But yeah, I heard that one, and then they changed it because they made it worse.
Well,
they made it to a worse line.
one of the execs was like, you have to change that line, and Fincher said, I'll only change it if you promise that whatever line I replace it with, I can keep. And so he replaced it with, I haven't been fucked like that since grade school. And she's like, well, you need to change that. And he's like, nope.
Mm.
You said
Can
I
we
didn't
change
have
it
to.
back? I believe was the
Yeah.
quote.
Yeah, I was like, and that was the thing. How Fincher ended up learning how to game the studio system was like, just make things so depraved that like they'll want you to pull back. Like that's where I actually wanted to be.
Yeah. Just go
So-
a little further. Yeah.
I feel like we can.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think
We can
I
go
could
on the length of the-
forever.
Yeah.
And then one last little thing: the realization scene.
Wait.
Just the little camera movements.
Oh,
Just the little when he sits up straight. The camera. Very Fincher-esque. Like he does 30, 40 takes, to make sure it's right.
I've always, because this was kind of ahead of its time, I feel like, was when he was explaining his circumstance and who he was as a person, the IKEA like pop-ups.
Mhm.
That was practical.
I know, but it's like it's one of those things that we didn't really see that like in cinema
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Yeah.
I think
And now we see it a lot more often where the text
Shows
or
up.
the information
Oh, yeah.
is
Like
appearing
very
on the
Sherlock
screen.
kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Whereas
they
like,
shot that over and over again, adding
I
one bit
think
at
the
a time.
big one that happened before that was probably Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
That was the one that kind of let people say,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you can do this with the square and the triangle."
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we
Cool.
can go to favorite
Yeah.
characters.
Favorite characters.
Which is tough.
We can
Yeah.
do 2.
Okay.
One is
Yeah.
Tyler Durden is both characters.
Okay.
We'll say it like that.
All right.
So that will count as 1 if you use them,
And then one side.
and then one side.
Very good. Very good.
Very good.
I understand.
Thank you, Doctor.
I would have to say, I gotta say Tyler and Marla. I mean, Marla for
So
me.
Brad.
Tyler. I really like Edward Norton in this.
Okay.
Actually, as much as Tyler Durden is a fun character and stuff, there's something about the way Edward Norton does this and the narration is just to me is very impressive. And then Marla Singer is just a wonderful character.
There was a
She
time in
based
my
a bit
life.
of her off Fincher.
There was a time in my life where Edward Norton was my favorite actor because of this movie. It was like
You voted wrong.
I was okay.
Yeah.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
Tyler.
Tyler.
I just
Brad.
Tyler Brad. Tyler Norton.
Tyler Brad.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, I love Edward Norton, but
It's fine, whatever.
there's something. It's fine. I'm not hurt. I'm fine. I just. I think that Brad Pitt is just this podcast's favorite actor. No,
Yeah.
no.
I accidentally learned he's my favorite actor.
Yeah, no. No, I realize that I just love his performances and pretty much anything he does. But in this movie, there's just such a range of emotion that I really love. And Robert Paulson,
Bob.
Meatloaf, Bob.
Love it.
I just
Bitch tits.
Yeah, Bob bitch
Giant.
tits.
They made 2 fat suits, one with nipples and one without,
Nice.
just in case the studio was like, no.
No nipples. No nipples.
Tom?
For me, probably, actually Brad Durden and then Marla.
Okay.
So
Okay.
There you have
I
it.
think that's it for me.
Now onward to
Qualms.
Qualms. Quimmy Quams.
Go ahead, Corey.
Oh,
And now for the shortest
Nope.
segment on the show.
that's mine. No, I don't really have any for this one.
My qualm's a weird one.
Go for it.
I've never been able to, no matter how many times I've watched this, and maybe I need to watch it with my buddy Corey. I've never
Who's
been
Corey?
able to fully accept the twist in terms of cinematically and visually of how it's
Ah!
supported.
Yeah, we should watch it together.
Because I've watched it a lot, and including like times where I'm looking for the clues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are some things that I'm like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it completely. But again, this is one of my favorite movies
Right.
of all.
Yeah.
We're having a discussion. So
Are
I'm
we?
just saying.
Or are we accusing?
You're on the court. you're on the block, and we leave it to the court of
The
public
jury.
opinion.
Yeah.
So
No, but I dig it. Do you have a second one?
Nope.
Okay.
Not at all.
Timothy.
if I can have a qualm,
You don't have
If
to
you
have
may.
one.
yeah, if I can have a qualm, and the thing is, this is kind of the question, right? Is how important is representation, right? And
Yep.
we look back in this film, and to me, my thing is this film isn't about that. And I think this film would be a little weird if it was. Now, I want to bring it up and compare it to Joker.
Mhm.
And I think we made this we talked about this on the episode, where it's really fucking weird that everyone that the Joker is spurned by is a black person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really fucking weird. It's hard to be like that's just a coincidence, but it's like when you see it done, it's like, how did you guys not see that happen?
Yeah.
And so if it doesn't happen in here, where we don't get any people of color and also any other women at all, then what is the film trying to say? And so I think the film is more focused on talking about the masculinity and about this machismo and this false sense of what masculinity is,
Mhm.
and this false sense of brotherhood and fraternity, and how it leads into this cult mentality. And it would be a very different movie if you saw a bunch of women getting pummeled by grown men too.
Sure.
And I think it would have even more quote unquote problematic conversations where people are like, well, yeah, there should have been women there. Like, so you would have wanted to see Holt McCallany just fucking throw a haymaker at like a 120-pound wet woman.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much, like, it's not that may not make sense.
Right.
But also, do you want to also show people, these are supposed to be, and I feel bad, but it's like, these are kind of like loserish dudes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we want,
Forgotten generation.
yeah, we don't know if we want to do that with people of color specifically, because they're not even an acknowledged generation.
Yeah.
Right. So that's just a conversation.
I think
to be
there's
like,
only like 1 or 2 black guys in the movie. There's one who fights Edward. It's a guy who like
beats the
pushes
crap out
his head like 3 or 4 times in the pavement. He's like, look, it's art afterwards.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
of- and I think also isn't one of the
Right.
waiting staff maybe,
I don't remember
but
off the top of my head.
that, and then yeah. So I guess it's a two-hander, because it's like technically Bechdel test doesn't happen,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
there's no women that talk to each other, blah blah. And it's like, to me, do I really look at that as a lens of criticism or how to view the film? Technically, I do look at that stuff because I am a
Sure.
storyteller, and I start thinking like, are all women conversations purely driven by the desires of men? Should it be that way? But also, would I want that to happen in this film? I don't know. And would it detract from the story? Does that story need to have it? And it doesn't. So like, those are those things you could look at, and those are the only qualms that I could think I could probably throw at this film.
Right.
That being said, nothing else.
Ratings.
Ratings.
Versus me.
Versus you. Let me guess. Let me write that 6 on the
6. No, this is if not still was for a very long time my favorite movie. For a lot of reasons.
Compared to Lawrence of Arabia?
Yeah, I mean, Lawrence of Arabia, I credit as being like,
Your cherry popper.
yeah,
Okay.
into like, oh, this is cinema and storytelling, and this was like
movies, film.
one of those things. This is what taught me the most about like making a movie when I was younger, and like what goes into constructing a story and what goes into every shot and character building and stuff like that. So with everything involved, this was for a very long time. I'd have to reanalyze my movie history, but for a very long time, for all intents and purposes, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. So 5, for sure.
Josh, I'll give you that 5 as well.
It's actually between you and him.
No, I thought I have 3 votes.
Nope, you both have 2. You have the Nerd on Nation on your side, though.
Oh yeah, so I'll go last.
You've already spoken for me. So
5?
Yeah, no, I mean my qualm is like I cannot hold it against the film that there's something that I do not understand yet. You know what I mean?
No, he said yet.
Yeah, I've got to watch the movie with my buddy Corey.
That's what I mean. That made me
Yeah,
happy.
we're Jory.
You're not Josh.
I am Robert Paulson. Yeah, so I mean, this movie, like I said a long time ago, what is a 5? I wouldn't change anything about this film. Not a single thing about this film would I change. I enjoy it every single time I watch it. It's usually a movie like, I don't have cable anymore, but if I saw it come on, I'd be like, I'm going to watch this.
I'm going to watch this.
I'm going to watch this. It's a movie that when I had a DVD collection, I bought the Ultimate Edition or whatever. I bought an edition of it. I probably own it digitally.
10th anniversary edition probably is what you bought.
Yeah. So this is a 5.
There we go.
It's 5.
Tom.
So when I think of like the 4 to 5 echelon films, I kind of think of like fine dining, right? It's kind of like something you have to engage with and take your time with.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of Fight Club, I think of like
Oh
the
gosh.
greatest street taco I've ever had in my life. Where it's
I
like,
get that.
You know what I mean?
I get
It's
that.
like
yeah.
It's so it's not pretty.
No.
Nothing's pretty about this movie, but it's so refined and it's so crafted. Where there's like,
carne asada is so good.
you know what I mean? It's like the steak isn't sous vide.
No.
It was not done through sous vide, but you got the perfect caramelization that you have a black crust
A
anyway.
little bit yeah.
and that's what this
No,
is
I want
to
street
me.
tacos.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it a 5.
Oh, shit.
Because it's a different 5 than like a Nolan 5, and those
Right,
two are like
yeah.
my favorite white guy directors. Right
Yeah.
now.
That makes sense. That means we got to give all the shout outs again.
Yeah. This
All
is
the
becoming a
shout-outs.
trend.
Yeah. It's
And
a hat
we gotta
trick
start
today.
we gotta
Hat trick today.
start putting episodes that we hate.
Yeah.
Some movies we
No!
So,
We don't!
Bradley P, Dana
Grease.
P, Kristen F, Mitchell G, Charlotte G, Matt R, and General G. A lot of G's today.
GGs.
Uh,
They're the what?
Y'all got it. You're the grass-fed Gatorade. Wait, what did we say?
Glycerin.
Gumper.
Golson.
Have fun with that, Julie.
Garbert Golson.
Garbert Golson.
Gobert Galson.
Mhm.
Not Goshua.
Gobstoppers.
Not Gosh.
That's it.
That's the one.
We,
We
it
did
only took us like 3.5
We
years
did
to do
Fight
it.
Club.
Yeah, we got to do La La Land and Grease and Rubber to not
And
have
Hot Rod.
and not have all these
Um,
5 episodes.
No, this literally has been on and off the schedule for the past 3.5 years.
It has.
It's just something that would be much more marketing
Everyone's probably
friendly
like- it
or
was just
something
like-
like that.
Fight Club?
Fight Club?
Would you say so? Now we've kind of done our darlings a little bit.
Yeah.
Would you say
We have.
this was like so to you? Was this like Josh's Big Lebowski? And so because I don't think this is my Kiki's Delivery Service.
Well, I think that would have been. It's either this or Lord of the Rings, yeah,
when we did that.
which we did both of. So,
So.
but yeah, I would say this is my.
Well, Corey gets to do every.
I think this is my Lebowski. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like because to me, I
Like
think-
you don't ever have to do another episode that you recommend ever again.
No, just Hot Rod.
I think I still have
That's out of spite.
I still have a lot of movies I want to do. But I think that'd be my
Prestige.
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 That'd be my
That's
prestige.
next.
Which was your Lebowski?
Stick around for the Prestige.
2023.
Yeah.
That
Don't-
sounds like it's a far time from now,
Dude,
but it's not.
This is off topic for a second.
It's
I saw
108.
this video where it was talking about like the class of 2024 and 25, like duking it out, and I was like, man, the future's gonna be. Oh shit, that is. They're in school now. The class of
Yeah.
2025 is in school right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
They're
I mean,
Yeah, dude.
We could do the prestige right now. Watch out for this double feature. Welcome, Nerd On.
What is everyone?
I might
Holy
actually-
shit!
someday I want to do a topic like that, like
Grindhouse.
just a topic where we just go, okay, no prep,
Oh,
like there you go.
but it can't be an episode.
Your movie is where we can't be evil to ourselves.
No.
we can't just be like, okay, do this movie that you've. It has to be like, hey, we've mentioned this movie a lot.
RoboCop.
Okay,
That's actually pretty good. I think.
yeah,
That's really good.
That is really good.
like, okay, you're talking about this right now. Go.
Oh,
like
shit.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990s movie.
Okay, let's go.
It's like,
So,
like, you could,
Robbie
like-
Wrist when he is talking. No, go
but
ahead.
like, there are topics that we probably all four could
I
be
think-
like, okay, I want you to talk about this, not like highfalutin
Is it?
idea.
But the thing is it
things.
Yeah.
is it you or is it all of us talking?
It's all of us talking.
I was gonna say-
Like, we're doing an episode off the book.
I feel like that could be done
Off
in
the
our-
script,
on,
just-
on Patreon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That could be it. Paywall, baby.
we
Support
do
us.
kind of actually do that. Actually, my next part of the show.
Join that Discord.
Join that Discord, but also join that Nerd On Nation. We do have off the cuff episodes where we go, here is the prompt, talk about it. And those,
Talk about it.
some of those have been over an hour long just because we got going and we're talking about food.
Yeah.
That
Sometimes
we can go on.
we'll jump topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about multiple things in an episode, and that's kind of the cool thing that you get really for supporting the show is that like you kind of get us.
There's very rarely any editing.
This isn't technically scripted, but we do go off a format.
outline, yeah.
So it's you get us unbridled, raw,
Yeah.
pure, concentrated.
As
There's
we like to say
crying.
here at Nerd On, I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Is that the first time it's been in a main episode in a while?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who cares?
It had to be in this one.
Yeah, it had to be.
to be in this one.
It had to be.
Well, thank you everybody
Thanks.
for watching or listening if you're on the YouTube.
Or both.
Or both. If you're doing it at the same time, whoa.
I like to do it.
Yeah, get those numbers up. Thank
do
you so
both
much.
views.
Appreciate you. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good
5-star.
stuff. Follow us on Apple Podcast. Whatever your
Podcatcher.
chosen place that you like to ingest our media. Thank
Blah,
you.
blah.
Thank you. And whatever their language is, Apple is now follow. Let's follow
Yep.
us on Apple. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Check out the Patreon. Check out our website, nerdon.tv. Has all of the information, all of this stuff that I just I just think of
That's
that.
you consume.
Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, Bruce Almighty. All of the stuff that I say, you can get it all at our website, nerdon.tv. It has all of the information, all of the links. Check it out. Do share us with your friends and family. That is how we grow. But that's it. There isn't any more. I am Robert Paulson. This is Nerd on the Podcast. You know the drill. As always, Nerd
Fight Club!
on.
Ending broadcast.
You know what this means, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one? I still can't. I don't. Is it a clapping? Is it a?
It's literally this.
Oh, okay. So it's hitting really hard. Okay. Okay.
So you can
It's
see
really
My
impressive.
finger get like
Yeah.
all red because it's like the pain.
Hey, Julie, if you could just clip that, we're gonna. Just like that. There we go.